Welcome all. We are studying the basics of C programming. This is a simple C program where I have two numbers 5 and 10 and I'm adding them and storing the result in the variable called sum and then printing the result on the screen. In C, there are two things. One we call as keyword, another we call as identifier. So these are two categories of words. So things like this, int, int, this is called a keyword. This MAIN is a keyword. VOID, it is a keyword. So what? How do we define a keyword? A keyword is something that is there inbuilt in the C and has a certain meaning. So this main is an inbuilt function in C, and this is not a user created or user defined function. This void has a meaning. It has a certain meaning defined by the developer of C. This void word is not a user invention. So anything of this sort, this is called a keyword. In the same way, this int means that this x and y and sum, these variables are of the type integer, meaning that x, y, sum, they can store integers and only integers. So this sum, x and y are user defined things, but this int, this is a keyword because this is a predefined thing. It has a certain meaning. In the same way, in C, you have numerous keywords, which with time we will use them one by one and we will learn how to use them. Then the second thing is identifier. What is an identifier? An identifier is something which is used to identify. It is used for identification purposes. So, for example, the name of a variable here, x. So x is a name of some variable. So it is an identifier. Y is an identifier. Sum is an identifier. So something that identifies something. And this identifier is a user defined thing. It is we who create this identifier and may store something into this, give some meaning to it. For example, I wrote x equal to 5. So I created an identifier. I named it x. Then I stored a value 5 in it. So identifier is a user defined thing. In C programming, there are certain rules for writing identifier. Rule number 1, that whenever you create an identifier, you either use alphabets A to Z. It may be capital or it may be small. but both have separate connotations. Capital X is not same as small x in C. They are two different things. So small x will be one variable, capital X will be another variable. Okay. This another thing, it can also use numbers. For example, I can say one variable or one identifier is x1, another is x2. So it can be like this also. So it can be a combination of alphabet, x is an alphabet, and it with a number. So 1 and 2 are numbers. And it can also use underscore. So an identifier can be built of three things. Either it will be it may constitute of an alphabet. It can also use underscore and number also. So the name of a variable and identifier can be like this also, x underscore 2. So the first rule is what constitutes an identifier. It may be an alphabet, it may be a number, it may be an underscore. That is it. Second thing, you can also start this identifier can be started either by an alphabet like x and or by an underscore. You can also start uh, an identifier using underscore. So this is okay. If I write underscore x, no issues with it. This is also this will also be a name of a variable. If I write x, that is also a name of a variable. If I write x underscore, no problem. But we cannot start an identifier using a number. We cannot write 2x. So this cannot be written. This is wrong. 2x cannot be name of a variable. It cannot be an identifier. x2 can be there, but not 2x. Another rule for identifier is that you cannot use keywords as identifiers, which is very logical. You cannot write here int. Int cannot be name of a variable. It cannot be an identifier because it has a predefined meaning. Int already has a predefined meaning in C. You cannot reuse it. It can be used only for that predefined meaning, generally speaking. So these are some rules for creating an identifier in C. Okay, one more thing. What could be the length of an identifier? For example, the length of y is 1. The length of sum is 3. What maximum length can an identifier have? There is no limit on the length, but it is preferable that you keep the length below 32 because some compilers have issues with a larger length. Some compilers will do, if you write a keyword of length 50, they will only consider the first 31 letters in it. So it is better whenever you create an identifier, keep it to 31 letters, not more than that. Okay. So in this program, x1 is a identifier. If I keep it x, it is an identifier. Y is an identifier. Sum is an identifier. Fine. What is keyword here in this program? Void is a keyword. Main is a keyword. Int is a keyword. Printf is a keyword. Clear screen, get, these are keywords. and they have an intrinsic meaning. Let us now try to uh, modify this program and make it more user friendly and more meaningful. If you look at this program, there is a limitation that you can only add 5 and 10. So this program can add only 5 and 10, and it always will produce a result of 15. Now I want to make it a flexible program in such a way that I can add any two integers. There should be no bound. Whatever I like, it is the user who will decide what to add. So in other words, this thing should not be here. We must take the values of x and y from the user. There should be some way that I will ask the user, please enter the value of x, enter the value of y. He or she will give the value of these variables, then I will output the result. So for that, there is a keyword called scanf. Scanf. So scanf doesn't mean that the C program has to scan something from a scanner. It is a keyword. Its meaning is take some value from the keyboard. So scanf will take some value from the keyboard. So the format is you write scanf, then since scanf is also a function, function mean will also always have parentheses, and then a semicolon. Okay, what we have to scan? We have to scan. We have to scan. We have to scan two integers. Which first we have to scan x, then we have to scan y. So since we have to scan x, I will write here ampersand x. So this is the format. So this means ampersand x means this whatever comes from the keyboard that goes into variable x. But whether it be printf or be scanf, you must mention what is this x. Is this an integer? Is this a character? Is this a floating point number? What is it? Since it is an integer, so I must write here like this, percentage d. So this is something you can just keep in memory, that whenever you write scanf or you write printf, you have to mention it in this format. The format will be this: first the scanf word, then the parenthesis starts, then in double quotes you have to mention the type of variable. The variable x is an integer, and for integers C uses percentage d. D is meant for integers, F for floating point numbers, C for character. So this is the format. You have to remember it. So I write percentage D, comma, then and X, means whatever value comes from the keyboard, it goes into X. So by this line, whatever I write on keyboard and press enter, that will that will be stored into X. To make this program more user friendly, I can go here and write printf, meaning display on the screen. What will I display? I will write please enter value of, or I will write like this, please enter the first number, sorry, please enter the first integer. Fine. So I am telling the user that enter the first integer. So he will give me one integer. I will store it in X by this line, by this thing. Then I have to take in second integer. Again, I will write printf, please enter second integer. Then I will write scanf, because I have to take another integer in. So the same format will be there, percentage %d, then a comma, then and ampersand, and where will I store the second integer? In y. Parenthesis close, the statement is complete, put a semicolon. So now what will happen? So this program will start executing. When I execute this program, firstly, 3 identifiers will be created, X, Y, and sum. Then the screen, the monitor will be cleared. Then this line will be printed. Please enter the first integer. Then I will enter the first integer. Then the second thing will be printed. Please enter the second integer. Second integer will be entered. That will be stored in Y. And once we have both X and Y with us, we just add them. So I will add X plus Y and will store that in some other identifier, in some other variable. We can call it anything. I use it sum, word sum, SUM. Once I have got the result, I have to display the result sum onto the black screen. For that, I use this line printf. Again, printf means to display something on the monitor, and the format is like this. I have to print this variable sum. So since this is a variable, I cannot put it in double quotes. And since this is an integer, I have to write percentage %d. Here I wrote printf, please enter the first integer. Since this is a string, I have to keep it in double quotes. Let us first go and save this program. So let us save this program by, let us call it add2.c. add2.c. Okay. Now let us compile the program. It is showing 2 errors. Let us see what are those errors. We press and enter. The first error is that in line number 10, unterminated string or constant. So clearly in this line, I have forgot to close this double quotes. Fine. Let me again compile the program. Now it is showing success, no error in this program. Let us run this program. So what is it showing? First it cleared the screen, then it is printing, please enter the first integer. So what is the first integer? Let me write anything. Let me write 98. Okay. Please enter the second integer. Let me write 2. Enter. Answer is 100. So this way you can add any 2 integers. So the answer will be 100 here. Fine. To make it more user friendly, you can do anything, any adjustments you like. For example, After printing, please enter the first integer. You may keep a space there, a space here, and before printing the answer, you can write here the sum of the entered integers is like this. Fine. Let us save this. Let us again compile it. Fine. Let us again run it. So now there is a little space after integer. So I can write anything. For example, I write 987. And for example, I write this is 13 second. So the answer, the sum, it is a more formal way. It is a more interactive way and a user-friendly way. So now it is clearly mentioning the sum of the entered integers is 1000. In the same way, you can do multiple calculations. Now, if I tell you that you have to add two floating point numbers, a floating point number means which simply it means which has a dot in it. For example, 1.2, 2.5, 2.97. So it is actually a fractional value. So we call it a floating point number. So if I have to add 1.2 and 2.3, this program cannot add that thing because they are not integers. For that, I have to remove this int. I have to write float. Again, this is a keyword, float. Float means that these values x and y and some these variables are floating point numbers. So I will modify the same program. I will write please add the first, please enter the first number. So when I write float, now it can take any value. It can take 1.2, it can also take 1. So it can take an integer as well as a fractional value. So I am asking him, please enter first number. Now you are, it is up to you which number you want to enter. Fine. Again, now this is a floating point number. I have to replace percentage d by percentage f. Then I will tell the user, please enter second number. Fine. So then again scan f, it cannot be percentage d, it will be percentage f because we are dealing with floating point numbers. And lastly, what will be here? It will be sum equal to x plus y. The sum of the two entered numbers is, what is the sum? Sum again will be a fractional value or maybe a fractional value. We will write percentage f sum. So this program will add two floating point numbers. We can save it with some other name. So save as add FLT. So float.c, meaning we are adding floating point numbers .c. Done. Then let us compile this program. It is okay. Then let us run this program. It shows the first enter the first number. You can add any number. For example, 1.2 is one number. The second number, let it be 2.3. The sum of the entered numbers is obviously it will be 3.5.